Alright, I think we are close enough. Hello everyone and welcome to the stream, which is now going to be titled An Infinite Number of Atoms Slam Their Face on a Keyboard an Infinite Number of Times in an Infinite Number of Parallel Universes until eventually a print string erupts. Okay, and it's a working title, I'm sorry. So I'm actually rather excited today, if you can't tell. I was playing around at work and I made something fun that actually is going to be very practical for our RPG template. Um, so what I made was a kind of highlight system that's not exactly a normal highlight system. It's not like you're like using post-process volumes and all that stuff like you're supposed to do, because I'm not an artist and I don't know how to do that. So I figured out a way around it. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Hey Sterlingy, how's it going? Glad to have you in the stream, man. Okay, so for those of you who have not been here before, this is our RPG template. It is something I am working on to eventually get to, hopefully, the marketplace. We've got our species and career selection, which you can think of like race class and D&D and stuff like that. We can randomize it, hit finalize. If we hit character sheet, our character sheet pops up, and we can actually change the values here to give ourselves stats and everything like that. I think I took out the level up thing for now. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So actually we check our health, energy, shields, and EXP, and we have a minor EXP system set up, but it's not overly filled out. But that's not what we're going to work on today. No. Okay, that was all within the first minute, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that or noticed that. Yeah, all that talking, 1 minute. So, interactable objects. They are kind of annoying to get set up, to be honest. I found out the very hard way. So I played around with it for a while, and I noticed that 3D widgets are fucking amazing, but that you can actually use them in interactable objects. Let's see. Interact object widget. So, first thing we're going to do, set up the beginnings of the widget. Don't need quite all of this. In fact, we barely need more than that. I'm going to go there and there-ish. Pretty much as long as it is big enough to fit a reasonable amount of text. Probably actually going to make the width a little shorter, the height a lot shorter. Grab this and place this right there. And I actually want to set the text at 20, go center alignment, and it's really important. This is super important for this, because otherwise you're going to get really messed up results. You make sure you come into anchors, and in this case specifically I'm going to do the center anchor, and I will show you why. Or at least I'll explain why when we get to that point. Okay, so we have the basics of our widget portion of this, which, as you can see, did not take very long. But there's a problem. See this text? I do not want it to print out text block. That's hideous. So I created a binding. Bloop. Hey, what's up, Drake? How you doing? And let's see, we're going to come into get text here, and we're going to call this object name. I think that's a good name for an object. Convenient. Then we're going to hit variables. And this was one of the parts that I actually got stuck on for a very long time. Was when I was trying to mess with this, I was trying to think of a way to get the display name of an object. Which you could do, get display name. Great. Get to specify an object. Great. Here comes the problem. So widgets, including 3D widgets, are always owned by the local player. They are not owned by the individual actors that are calling them. So in our case, we're actually going to be putting this inside of other blueprints, but the widget is still owned by the player. That is problematic because we don't want the player's information, we want the object's information. So this is useless to me. This right here does nothing for me. So what I did instead, and this was actually suggested to me by Rudy at work, he helped me out a little bit with this and got me at least pointed in a different direction than I was going, which was the path of insanity. Let's see, name, or let's call it display name. I'm going to make that public so that other objects can interact with it. Oh, look, the spammers are starting already today. Oh man, I feel so loved. And all we need in here, boom, boom, that's it. Display name into the return value. And that is as far as this portion of the widget goes. So we're going to back out of that. And now let's make an actor. And we're going to call this interact object underscore parent. Again, I have a reason. So in our interact object parent, there's a few things that we need. First thing is we need a static mesh. We'll call this base mesh. And then we need a widget blueprint. Now, this widget component is experimental, so use at your own risk. Okay? That's important because I'm not going to be held responsible for what happens if you get messed up. I will not be held responsible. However, I do want to come in here real quick. I forgot to set this so we can actually test this. Bloop. Test, and now once we compile, I need it in world space. Where are you? Oh, right, I actually need to set the widget. Okay, so make sure in your widget component here, you come to widget class and set the widget that you're looking for. In this case, we're looking for the interact object widget, and boom, there we go. We now have a text block. Now you may be asking why I didn't use a text render actor, and it's because I didn't want to. Also, this gives me actually more modularity and allows me to use the same functionality in multiple blueprints without having to worry about copying all the code over. Instead, I can just go, oh, okay, I just need to get this display name, boop, stick it in an object. Plus, I just prefer it this way. Widgets are fun. However, a variant of what I'm doing here is literally to come up here. You can go, if you really want to, use a text render actor. And as you can see, you get text. It's different than this text, but it's text. So, depends on what you're looking for. In my case, I wanted to use this. Okay, now, I'm going to set a default mesh for now. Pull this up like this. And now the important thing here, I'm going to set this text probably about right there, but I'm also going to switch it to screen. And the reason is, let's see, the widget is rendered in the screen, completely outside of the world, never occluded. So instead of being rendered actually as a 3D object, it's actually only going to be rendered when it's on screen. So when it's not on screen, it takes up no space, which is another benefit of what we're doing. Now, it makes it less obnoxious, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Probably wrong. Gonna go with it anyways. Okay, so the next portion of this Going to get my display name widget. That's great. These are getting in my way. There we go. So we got this. We're going to drag down cast to, or I have to do something else. Get user widget object. So we are now getting the user's widget object. Bloop. Cast to interact object widget. And just in case we need to use this again, I'm going to promote that to a variable. Let's see. Object widget. Now, you don't really need to do this part, or this here. I do this just in case I want to use the widget itself again, and I don't want to have to cast again. It to me is very tedious to have to cast multiple times when I can just use a variable that has already been casted to. But not necessary. Okay. Next, I'm going to drag off of this to a reroute node because I don't want this to be hideous. We're going to get, let's see, what did I call it? Display name? Yeah. So, get display name. Or, sorry, I didn't mean get, I meant set. And let's drag this out just a hair. Set display name. Now, maybe asking yourself, what are we going to set this to? Well, we could do display name, just like we were going to earlier. So let's say we do that, okay? Self. Now, it's all well and good. We'll even put this in a copy of this in our level. And then when we hit play, hit finalize, got act object parent. And if we drag out a second one, we have act object parent and CT object